Chapter 81, Finn's Decision. The team that cleared out the imps, go help others. Level 2 Adventurers, speed up to kill the silverback ape. Level 3 Adventurers, a new silverback ape appeared at 3 o'clock. Intercept it and wait for the mage's magic. Mages, start chanting and aim at the new silverback ape. Upon Luke's return, Finn's commanding voice continued resonating on the battlefield. The battle was reaching its conclusion. The peripheral imps were almost completely eliminated, and the initially assaulting silverback ape was near death under the siege of many adventurers. The only concern was the newly arrived silverback ape, which Finn had already arranged for. Riveria, have the mages release their magic at the right moment. Ha! Luke, you're back. Finn gave his final command and turned around to see Luke returning. How's the situation over there? There was an infant dragon hidden, but I took care of it. While answering Finn's question, Luke walked towards Gareth, who managed logistics. Luke, are you back? This is really bad. Before Gareth could finish his question, he saw the sword Luke was handing over. He took the weapon, inspected it briefly, and then sighed. No way to repair it now, the blade's completely hollowed out inside. Can't you be gentler with your weapons? Looking at Ace fighting with imps not far away, Luke chuckled slightly in response to Gareth's complaint. I've been as gentle as possible. I guess I'll believe that. From his backpack, Gareth took out a finely crafted sword and tossed it to Luke. If you break this one, you'll have to pay. Luke caught the sword and sheathed it at his waist. Finally, he was ready for another battle. At this moment, the ongoing battle had reached its final act. Mages, unleash your magic, go. Boom, boom, boom. Following Riveria's command, several magic simultaneously struck the new silverback ape, turning it into pieces. At this point, the battle that occurred on the newly entered 10th floor had concluded. Finn, what's next? Rest for a bit or continue forward? We encountered an attack right after reaching the 10th floor. Just to be safe, let's take a break for now. Upon hearing Gareth's question, Finn, after some consideration, made a decision. For a large group like theirs to rest in the dungeon, they needed to find a relatively safe place within this floor. And Finn and his group had undertaken expeditions more than once, making them quite familiar with the area. So, they chose a resting place that resembled a cave-like room. This room had only one entrance, and all around it was sealed by stone walls. In the dungeon, there was a hidden rule. If the terrain in the dungeon, led by the walls, was destroyed, the dungeon would prioritize restoring that specific part. In other words, when the walls were damaged, monsters wouldn't respawn in the surrounding area. So, as long as they found a room with only one entrance, they could designate a group to continuously break down the walls and another group to guard the entrance. By rotating this process, they could successfully rest in the dungeon. Because there were many areas in the dungeon that required teamwork, entering the dungeon alone was considered an unwise act. Luke, did you notice Ace's performance earlier? After arranging the rotation, Finn found Luke. Yeah, what do you think? Still can't make a decision. Luke silently looked at Finn, who was the leader of their group. This decision, which was crucial to Ace's future, had to be made by Finn. To be honest, I still don't have complete confidence. But after seeing Ace's change in combat style during the recent battle, abandoning defense and focusing solely on killing monsters, I believe there must be a change in Ace's education. If it weren't for your suggestion, I might have temporarily forbidden her from entering the dungeon after this expedition. The meaning in Finn's words made Luke understand that he basically agreed to let Ace use magic. So about this matter, I'll leave it to you. Leave it to me. Shouldn't it be Riveria? Luke was somewhat puzzled. Shouldn't Mama Elf be responsible for Ace's education issues? Finn, seeing Luke's confused expression, was also surprised. Haven't you noticed? Noticed what? Realizing that Luke genuinely hadn't noticed the issue, Finn suddenly smiled strangely. Nothing, just consider that Riveria is a bit shy and can't bring herself to discuss this matter. Luke, looking at Finn's odd smile, was a bit puzzled, but he still accepted the task. In fact, Luke hadn't noticed that Ace listens quite well to him. Perhaps it was because on the first day, Ace saw a somewhat fatherly figure in Luke. Or maybe Ace instinctively sensed that both of them, now, are essentially swords. Or maybe because Luke, like Ace, is a novice adventurer. Or it could also be due to that long-lost mother's wind. In any case, Ace saw too much in Luke, leading to a natural sense of closeness to this familiar or similar person. Finn and the others had noticed this long ago because Ace always appeared very obedient in front of Luke. This is what Finn and the others know, but there are actually things they don't understand. In Ace's eyes, Luke was not only similar to her but also different from her. He was powerful. While Luke was similar to Ace, he possessed a strength that Ace currently couldn't match. Both newcomers, both swords, but Luke's strength was something Ace, no matter how she tried, couldn't surpass at the moment. Why was this person so powerful? This question had actually been in Ace's mind since the first day, during Luke and Finn's duel. Ace didn't know the reason, but she wanted to know. She wanted to understand why Luke, even as a newcomer, remained powerful. So, with an intense desire for strength, Ace subconsciously drew closer to Luke. And this desire-induced closeness began to show some changes after Luke helped her recall the warmth of her mother that night. The most noticeable change was that the current Ace, compared to Riveria, listened more to Luke. Chapter 82, Floor Boss. Goliath. Since no one had been severely injured, the rest time wasn't too long. After treating all injuries of the Familia members, the entire team, under Finn's command, continued moving forward. This time, learning from the experience of the previous monster attack that assaulted the center of their team, everyone became extra vigilant. Finn also made some adjustments to the expedition team's formation, ensuring they had enough teammates around for support in case of an ambush. The upper floors of the dungeon were not unfamiliar to Loki Familia. Most members had been here more than once. After regrouping, the team's speed increased. In less than a day, the team approached the 17th floor. During this process, Luke finally encountered one of the most representative monsters in the dungeon, the Minotaur. Swish! A slash cut the Minotaur in half, and Luke turned around, continuing to roam on the edge of the team. Luke's current task was to act as a free ranger. Whenever he saw a Familia member struggling, he would intervene to rescue them. At this point, LV1 adventurers were struggling to keep up. Without the assistance of LV3 or higher adventurers, casualties might have occurred. Theoretically, LV1 adventurers were already at their limit near the 10th floor. The members of Loki Familia had pushed their limits by following the main force deep into the mid-floors of the dungeon. Even so, they were way past their limits, waiting to cross the 17th floor and enter the safe 18th floor. Those LV1 adventurers who couldn't keep up would be left behind by Finn and the others on the 18th floor. They would wait until the expedition was over before returning to the surface with the rest of the team. But all of this depended on the team passing their first hurdle now. On the 17th floor of the dungeon, the monster Rex, the floor boss, Goliath. As the expedition team reached the entrance of the 17th floor, in places where the floor boss already existed or was about to respawn, no other monsters would be present. This was why the floor boss was also referred to as the floor king, a solitary ruler in the dungeon floor. However, just as Finn was preparing to strategize against Goliath, Luke approached him. "Finn, can you leave this floor boss to me? Are you serious?" Finn looked at Luke and carefully confirmed with him. "My strength, among the Familia members, you're the only one who has faced me. You should be the most aware." Luke waved his hand dismissively at Finn and walked towards the respawn location of the monster Rex ahead. "Do you really think I can't defeat Goliath alone?" Watching Luke's departing figure, Finn, somewhat resigned, thrust his spear into the ground and shouted to the expedition team behind him, "Everyone, rest in place." Upon hearing Finn's command and seeing Luke's actions, almost everyone understood what was about to happen. Without paying much attention to the commotion in the team, Riveria and Gareth quickly arrived by Finn's side. "Are you serious, Finn?" Riveria couldn't help but ask Finn first. She was quite worried about Luke. After all, he's just a rookie adventurer at the moment. Finn shook his head in response. "I just asked Luke the same question a moment ago. Don't worry, he'll be fine." Luke walked all the way to the respawn point of the floor boss. On the 17th floor, Aside from a passage at the entrance, there was only this circular cave where the monster wrecks respawned. Directly across from the entrance of the passage was the entrance to the safe floor. To reach it, one had to pass through this cave guarded by the floor boss. Different from the stone walls outside, the walls inside this cave were glowing with 7 colors of light. The moment Luke stepped into the cave, numerous cracks appeared on the walls, and a huge figure emerged from the interior of the walls. This is truly a giant, isn't it? Luke looked at Goliath, feeling somewhat emotional. Goliath's appearance was that of a colossal humanoid, and even the term giant couldn't fully describe it. It was taller than an average building. As soon as Goliath appeared, it fixed its gaze on the only enemy in the area. It swung a massive palm, crashing down towards Luke like a meteor. Its enormous size, coupled with monstrous strength, brought unparalleled destructive power. This slap directly created a gigantic palm print on the ground. Even with prana activated, Luke wasn't sure if he could fully withstand this blow. Fortunately, Goliath wasn't fast, and speed happened to be Luke's strong point. With a flicker of blue starlight, Luke swiftly dodged Goliath's palm. He tightly gripped Severesta at his waist and, facing Goliath's palm, sheathed it out forcefully. Splat! A pillar of blood soared into the sky. Severesta's pure white blade effortlessly sliced through Goliath's defense. Garor! Perhaps sensing the pain, Goliath roared loudly. It showed no concern for its injuries and frantically hammered both hands toward Luke. Boom! 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 With each of Goliath's strikes on the ground, a massive crater appeared. However, it never managed to land a hit on Luke's body. Luke's body was adorned with shining blue star fragments. Every time Goliath struck the ground, Luke would leave a slash on its hand. Goliath's body was incredibly massive, and its 2 colossal arms represented more than just sheer strength. They also signified an enormous attack range. When Goliath pounded the ground, Luke attempted to get close to its vulnerable areas but was continuously blocked by its 2 gigantic arms waving in the air. The enormous palm, massive arms, and the tremendous air pressure generated when they swung made it difficult for Luke to approach at times. The battle gradually reached a stalemate. However, such a deadlock was not favorable for Luke. If it turned into a stamina contest, the current Luke would be no match for the monster. Since I can't attack your weak points, let's start by cutting off your arms. Luke observed Goliath's continuously swinging arms, and Severesta in his hand began to entwine with black flames. Moreover, with the infusion of Luke's prana, Severesta gradually transformed back into the shape of a great sword. At the moment Severesta completed its transformation, Goliath's palm came crashing towards Luke. This time, Luke didn't dodge in advance like before. He slightly tilted his body and, with Severesta in hand, forcefully slashed at Goliath's arm. Chapter 83, Crusade Against Goliath. Splurt. Boom. Severesta's blade was entwined with black flames, instantly severing Goliath's arm. Blood gushed out like a fountain from the severed limb of Goliath. The massive severed arm fell to the ground, causing a momentary tremor, as if the entire floor was about to collapse. Gar! Goliath roared madly, swinging its other arm towards Luke once again. However, having lost one arm, Goliath couldn't defend itself against Luke, who now had complete freedom of movement around its entire body. Luke exerted force beneath his feet, surrounded by the light of prana, evading Goliath's attack and directly rushing to its front. Severesta, in its greatsword form, carried an unstoppable momentum as it slashed towards the Goliath's head. However, just as Severesta was about to strike it, the Goliath suddenly opened its mouth. Endless air pressure and immense magical power gathered in Goliath's mouth, eventually forming a massive sonic projectile that blasted away everything in front of it. Boom! A storm raged, the earth churned, and Goliath's sonic attack seemed to destroy everything in its path. This power is truly frightening. If I were to take this blow head-on now, even if I don't die, I'd probably be severely injured. Luke stood on Goliath's head, looking somewhat awestruck at the scene of destruction. Having known in advance that Goliath possessed this ultimate move, Luke effortlessly avoided this unexpected attack. It's about time to end the battle. Prana gathered beneath Luke's feet, and then he leaped upwards with force. Utilizing the descending force, he used Severesta in his hand to split Goliath vertically from top to bottom. Great sword style, he tenmitsu Ryu, Ryutsweisen. Goliath's roar abruptly ceased, and as it was cleaved in two, it directly dissipated into black smoke in the air, leaving behind a massive magic stone. On the other side, while Luke was in a fierce battle with the Goliath, Finn and the others were closely watching the battlefield. Originally, their idea was to intervene promptly if they sensed that the situation was unfavorable for Luke. Who would have thought? "He's truly a formidable young man," Gareth remarked, slightly relaxing his grip on the massive shield in his hand. "To challenge the floor boss solo, even though he's still at level 1, he can already be considered a first-class combat force," Gareth continued. Hearing Gareth's words, Finn nodded and said, "Honestly, confining him to the upper floors seems a bit underestimating his talents. But if we allow Luke to venture alone into the deeper parts of the dungeon, it might cause significant psychological stress for Ace," Finn added. At the mention of Ace, the three of them fell into a moment of silence. Many of their current arrangements were geared towards taking care of Ace, even the plans for Luke. "However, there's a solution to this issue," Finn said after a few seconds of silence, smiling as if he had thought of something good. Meanwhile, not far away, the central figure of their discussion, Ace, was steadfastly staring at the silhouette of Luke in battle. Why is this person so powerful? Even standing so far from the battlefield, Ace could clearly sense the trembling of the ground. Each strike from Goliath, in her perception, was terrifying. Despite Goliath appearing cumbersome in front of Luke, it possessed speed not inferior to an average level 3 adventurer. Ace stood there, captivated, watching Luke maneuver through the battlefield, inflicting damage on Goliath time and time again. Not only Ace, but as the battle approached its finale, the entire expedition team fell silent. Everyone was watching Luke's battle, witnessing him dodge Goliath's attacks and continuously inflict damage. And then, they all watched as Luke delivered the final blow, cleaving Goliath into two with a single strike. After transforming Severesta back into its katana form and reinserting it into the sheath of tranquility, Luke jumped down from the massive magic stone dropped by Goliath. During the final blow just now, Luke intentionally avoided Goliath's magic stone. The magic stones of floor bosses, without exception, were exceptionally large and extremely valuable. Generally, during the defeat of a floor boss, all teams would choose the method of shattering the magic stone to defeat the boss. Achieving what Luke did, defeating the monster Rex directly without destroying its magic stone, was something that no one else, except for Finn and the other first-class adventurers, could accomplish. Finn and the others usually organized teams and defeated floor bosses through team formation, so they also couldn't obtain these huge magic stones every time they fought against the Goliath. "You really gave me a headache with this," Finn said shortly after Luke came down, leading the expedition team over. Looking at the enormous magic stone, Finn seemed a bit troubled as he said to Luke, "Now, how do we transport this out of here?" Hearing Finn's complaint, Luke shrugged and replied, "Well, how about leaving it here?" This suggestion immediately prompted Gareth, responsible for logistics, to react strongly. He tapped Luke's back with his shield and grumbled discontentedly, "You brat, you really have no idea about the hardships of our familia. A fortune this huge, are you suggesting we just leave it here for someone else to take?" "Hey, Finn, I'm telling you, no matter what, you have to bring this thing back for me." Listening to Gareth, Finn nodded helplessly. "Of course, I know we have to take it back. Anyway, let's transport it to the 18th floor first and then figure out a plan." Ultimately, after making the decision, the expedition team carried the massive magic stone and entered the 18th floor, known as the safe floor. The safe floors are a special type of area that appears in the dungeon. In these floors, no monsters spawn, and there is mostly no danger, which is why they are called safe floors. As of now, there are only 3 known safe floors, namely the 18th, 38th, and 50th floors. All of them are located on the floor immediately below where the monster Rex resides. Among them, the 50th floor is documented in the records left by Zeus Familia after their expedition. According to Finn and their current strength, they are not yet capable of reaching such depths. After passing through the tunnel and arriving at the 18th floor, a beautiful natural landscape unfolded before Luke. Meadows, forests, lakes, it's hard to imagine such picturesque scenery appearing inside a dungeon if one hasn't seen it with their own eyes. In addition to these beautiful natural landscapes, the 18th floor also has its own specialty, a widespread variety of uniquely shaped blue crystals that seem to cover every corner of the world. Chapter 84, The 18th Floor. Following the expedition team, Luke traversed the grassy entrance of the 18th floor and entered a forested area. On the 18th floor, there was actually a town. A town purely constructed and managed by adventurers, known as Riviera. Since it was built by adventurers themselves, the entire town appeared quite run down, with no particular order to the arrangement of houses. Except for a few important buildings, most shops were even constructed with shabby woods. Due to the small size of the town, not even reaching the length of a street in Rio, it was also called Riviera Street. Being self-managed by adventurers meant that all the rules set by the Adventurer Guild on the surface couldn't constrain the adventurers here. Thus, Riviera Town had its own unique rules, significantly different from those on the surface. With unreasonable soaring prices of the goods, the circulation of forbidden items and potions, incidents like robbery, theft, and bullying occurred frequently here. However, there was still a noticeable order, such as unity against external threats and the prohibition of killing adventurers. It was a unique town woven with chaos and order, filled with adventurer style. Due to the unreasonably high prices in the town, every time Finn and his team arrived at this floor, they chose to camp in the woods instead of staying in the town's inn. After all, who wants to willingly be ripped off? Luke walked through the forest, enjoying the unique beauty of the surrounding scenery. Blue crystals covered every corner of the forest, from small crystals growing at his feet to enormous ones that could fit an entire person. The crystals emitted a blue glow, and countless differently shaped blue crystals caused the forest to be filled with a pale blue glow. It was a mysterious and fantasy-like color palette. This nameless blue forest made Luke feel like he was in a fairy tale world. Even on the safe floor, don't let your guard down completely inside the dungeon. Seeing Luke and Ace being captivated by the dreamlike scenery, Riveria spoke up, giving them a gentle reminder. After hearing Riveria's reminder, Luke snapped out of his reverie. But then, he was a bit puzzled and asked Riveria, "Isn't it said that there are no monsters in the safe floor? Why do we need to be cautious? While it's true that monsters won't spawn in the safe floor, it doesn't mean there are no monsters on this floor." Shaking her head, Riveria pointed out the flaw in Luke's words. They won't spawn, but monsters can still come to this floor through the entrance and exit to the upper and lower floors. Since humans can move between the dungeon floors, monsters can also do so. Although rare, there have been incidents where monsters from lower floors entered upper floors, causing significant casualties among lower-level adventurers. That being said, the 18th floor is somewhat special. Monsters that come to this floor, attracted by the scenery, seem to have reduced aggressiveness. Generally, as long as you consciously avoid and don't provoke the monsters on this floor, you won't be attacked. Therefore, the 18th floor is also known as the Under Resort. It's not only a paradise for humans but also for monsters. Riveria finished speaking. By the way, Riveria, take Luke and Ace there. Let them see the sights we saw back then. Consider it a tradition to be passed down to them. Finn gave his advice as he walked towards them. Upon hearing Riveria explaining the 18th floor to Luke and Ace, Finn suddenly made this suggestion to her. Riveria paused for a moment, seemingly reminiscing about the time the three of them first arrived on the 18th floor. "Alright, you guys go set up camp. I'll take them there to have a look." Thinking of something, a faint smile appeared on Riveria's lips. The usually stern elf royalty now had a softened expression. This contrast made Luke appreciate just how beautiful Riveria truly was. Snapping out of his daze, Luke and Ace didn't interject but quietly followed Riveria. They were both curious about the place Finn mentioned. Following the direction Riveria led, the density of trees gradually decreased. Soon, they saw a semicircular forest exit ahead. Crossing the relatively dim forest boundary, what came into the view of Luke and Ace was a miracle of nature. A magnificent and vast grassland, a lush expanse that was rarely seen even on the surface. At the center of the grassland stood a towering giant tree reminiscent of the mythical world tree where elves resided. Luke and Ace were guided by their sight along the direction of the growing giant tree, looking up towards the sky of this floor. Then, another miraculous scene appeared before them. It was crystals, countless crystals. The ceiling of the 18th floor was filled with countless glowing crystals. Like blossoming flowers, innumerable crystals covered every corner of the ceiling. They were of two colors. The central ones were as white as the sun, and surrounding the white ones were hues of blue reminiscent of the outside sky. It's not that there is a blue sky inside the dungeon. Instead, the countless crystals emit light, creating the illusion of a blue sky. The glow of these crystals changes with the passage of time, so even in the 18th floor, there is a kind of a night. Riveria's explanation came timely into Luke and Ace's ears. The 18th floor, a safe floor. An underground world filled with crystals and nature. Also known as the Under Resort. Riveria stood there with Luke and Ace, silently appreciating the miracle created by the collaboration of the dungeon and nature, a world full of crystals and natural beauty. After enjoying the beautiful scenery, Luke and the others returned to the campsite to help with camping preparations. The Loki Familia expedition team would spend 2 to 3 days on the 18th floor for maintenance. During this time, various tasks such as rest, treating wounded members, and assigning duties to those staying behind would be carried out. Out of the nearly 30 members in the expedition team, only a little less than half might be qualified to continue deeper into the dungeon. Most LV-1 adventurers would be left behind, with a few LV-2 and LV-3 members staying with them to prevent potential threats from the dungeon or other adventurers. Considering the exhaustion of ordinary members, Luke's condition was relatively good at this moment. And just in time, Finn found him at this time. "Luke, how are you feeling? Do you want to go to the town with me? I need to sell the magic stones and drop items we collected from the previous floors, as well as that huge magic stone you obtained before." Finn pointed at the conspicuous giant magic stone behind. "Besides, you haven't been to Riviera yet. It's a good opportunity to show you and Ace around." Chapter 85, Riviera. Here is Riviera Town. How about it? It's even more rundown than you imagined, isn't it? Finn, accompanied by Luke, Ace, and several members carrying the giant magic stone, arrived at the entrance of Riviera Town. Even though they were aware beforehand that Riviera, being a town built by adventurers themselves, would appear somewhat dilapidated, Luke couldn't help feeling somewhat helpless when he laid eyes on the legendary Riviera Town. This is beyond rundown, right? Standing at the entrance and looking into the town, most of what caught the eye were shabby wooden buildings. To call them buildings was already giving them more credit than they deserved. Many of the so-called shops were basically makeshift structures made of a few wooden planks. It looked like street stalls with added back panels and canopies. Haha, there's a reason they look so simple. Hearing Luke's comment, Finn chuckled. Even on the safe floors, accidents have occurred over the years. Occasionally, monster riots and the movement of deep floor monsters can deal devastating blows to the town here. So, the construction style here, convenient for reconstruction, is a necessity. Finn led them into Riviera Town, explaining some of its history to Luke and Ace as they walked. Of course, there aren't any master builders among adventurers who reside here. That's one of the reasons this place looks so run down. As they entered the town, Finn's group, carrying a conspicuously large magic stone, quickly drew a lot of attention. Is that the Loki Familia? Such a big magic stone. It must be from the floor boss. Haven't seen a magic stone this big in years. Accompanying the crowd of onlookers was another person who seemed to be their leader. Hey, Finn. What are you up to? Trying to cause trouble. The leader was a middle-aged man with an eye patch over his left eye, and the scars that couldn't be completely concealed by the eye patch were clearly visible. Obviously, this is a seasoned adventurer. His name is Bors Elder, the de facto manager of Riviera. I certainly don't intend to cause trouble. I'm just here to deal with the materials the expedition team obtained on the upper floors. Finn shrugged innocently at Bors. Expedition. I see. Is it time for your Loki Familia's expedition again? But, when you say to materials, you don't mean that big thing behind you, right? Bors furrowed his brow at first, and realized that it was indeed time for the Loki Familia expedition, and then he pointed at the huge magic stone behind Finn. Of course not. I came here to borrow some space from you. After all, we can't bring this magic stone with us on the expedition. Finn walked up to Bors, gesturing for him to calm down, and then explained to him the reason for bringing the magic stone here. Well, if you have plans for this magic stone, I certainly wouldn't mind. It would actually save us a lot of trouble. After hearing Finn's explanation, Bors felt relieved. When he heard about the disturbance caused by Loki Familia at the entrance, it had given him a cold sweat. A magic stone of this size is useless for anyone except the guild. I'd be a fool to spend money on something like this. Let's be clear, whether it's borrowing space to store the magic stone or hiring people to guard it, it will cost money. And I won't give you any discounts. After speaking, Bors dispersed the crowd and led Finn's group inside. At the same time, he muttered under his breath. By the way, leaving it here, aren't you afraid of it being stolen? Regarding Bors's last malicious reminder, Finn just smiled and didn't take it to heart. Setting aside whether anyone dared to openly provoke the Loki Familia, the sheer size of this massive magic stone would make it impossible to steal without making some noise. And once any theft was discovered, in the current Rio, except for Freya Familia, no one could withstand the wrath of Loki Familia. Finn led the members of Loki Familia to arrange the massive magic stone with Bors. Meanwhile, Luke and Ace didn't follow. Finn suggested they explore the town on their own. Once the handling of materials and placement of the magic stone were completed, Finn would come to find them. After about a week and a half, Luke once again took Ace for a stroll through the streets. However, this time, the shopping was genuinely just for leisure. The prices here were absurdly high. A small regular whetstone, not even the size of a palm, cost 13,000 valis. A small patch-covered supporter backpack went for over 20,000 valis. P.S. In the original work, it seems valis is roughly equivalent to Japanese yen. So, a whetstone should cost 900 Japanese yen, and a worn-out backpack around 1,300 Japanese yen on the surface. However, the most outrageous price increases were seen in essential biological supplies such as food and water. While items like whetstones and backpacks had their prices inflated by around 10 times, food and drinks soared by more than 30 times. Now I truly understand why Finn and the others prefer camping over resting in this town. Luke looked at the price tags of various items, feeling a headache. Even Ace, standing beside him, nodded with a conflicted expression. A meal in this place would cost them tens of thousands of valis. It's not just expensive, it's outright robbery. Hey, kid, is it your first time on Riviera Street? A passerby adventurer overheard Luke's complaints. He grinned at Luke and said, "It's always been like this here. Before you say the food here is expensive, think about how difficult it is to get food in the dungeon. When you really need to buy supplies in this town, it's undoubtedly a desperate situation. In such cases, do you think the merchants here will go easy on you?" The explanation from the passing adventurer left Luke feeling helpless. The open exploitation and scamming people seemed to be an accepted practice in Riviera. Regardless of how outsiders felt, once you were here, you had to abide by their rules. Chapter 86, Encountering the Green Dragon. Luke, accompanied by Ace, wandered around Riviera for a while. It didn't take long before Finn found them again. He then led them, giving a detailed introduction to this adventure town. Time passed by, and the maintenance, lasting less than 3 days, concluded without any unexpected incidents. Few dared to cause trouble for the Loki Familia, so everything proceeded smoothly. With the maintenance over, the 16 selected adventurers for the next stage of the expedition were ready. Among them were 3 level 5 adventurers, the high-ranking executives of the Loki Familia, 3 level 3, 8 level 2, and 2 level 1 adventurers. Among the 2 level 1 adventurers were Luke and Ace. Luke earned recognition for his combat prowess, while Ace was allowed to join as a supporter for the team. In the central area of the 18th floor, at the base of the giant tree, there was a massive hole at its roots, the entrance to the 19th floor. Passing through it would lead to the large tree labyrinth, spanning from the 19th to the 24th floor, representing the latter half of the middle floors. The dungeon's division of floors was as follows: the 1st to 12th floor as the upper floors, with the first 5 floors known as the novice area. The middle floors ranged from the 13th to 24th floor, including special floors like the 17th floor Monster Rex area and the 18th floor Safe Zone. Therefore, the middle floors were further divided into 2 sections, front and back. From the 25th to 36th floor were the lower floors of the dungeon. The expedition's goal this time was the floor boss on the 37th floor, marking the entrance to the deep floors. Despite the expedition team's numbers being reduced by almost half, their combat strength remained intact. Conversely, the absence of weaker and lower-leveled members accelerated the overall team's progress. Several days later, the expedition team safely entered the 24th floor. However, upon reaching this floor, the entire team's pace slowed down. This time, they deliberately slowed down, not due to external factors like thick fog or monster attacks that forced them to reduce speed, as it happened on the 10th floor. It was a proactive choice. The reason was the abundance of dungeon resources on the 24th floor, known as the large tree labyrinth. The walls, ground, and ceiling are made out of wood, making it seem like the inside of a giant tree. Instead of phosphorescent light, radiating moss grows across the floor and gives off blue light. These floors contain a large amount of unexplored areas and a large variety of insect-type monsters. At every corner or cave visited by adventurers, they encountered different landscapes, with some areas even resembling beautiful gardens. The plant diversity on these floors often provides ingredients used to make healing items, resulting in many resource-gathering quests being issued for this area. After research in Rio, it has been confirmed that various plants/herbs in this area, even if consumed directly, have rapid effects in restoring stamina or detoxification. Therefore, alchemists who craft restorative potions and other items highly value these ingredients. Even the dazzling moss that forms the labyrinth's light source in this area can be exchanged for a considerable amount of wealth upon returning to the surface. The expedition team slowed down their progress here to collect some precious materials. Many of the herbs in this area can save their life in critical moments. Captain, look quickly, it's a gem tree. P.S. It's called gem tree, right? I can't remember what the heck the tree's name was. Just as Luke and the others were carefully searching for herbs around them, suddenly, a level 3 familia member pointed in a direction and shouted. Upon hearing the words, gem tree, almost everyone who knew its value instinctively stopped their actions. Riveria looked at the rare gem tree in the distance, her tone showing unusual hesitation, and asked Finn. Finn, what should we do? Should we give up the gem tree? Finn stared at the direction of the gem tree, thinking seriously. He wasn't looking at the gem tree but was focused on the monster lying beneath it, the green dragon. The gem tree is an extremely rare tree species that produces high-quality red or blue gems on its branches. Gems produced by the gem tree, when placed on the surface, would attract the attention of many goddesses, making it a literal money tree. Similar to the gem tree, precious items in the dungeon are always guarded by powerful monsters known as treasure guardians. The guardian of the gem tree appearing on the 24th floor is the green dragon that Finn is closely watching. If the floor boss is considered the dungeon's final boss, then the treasure guardian is akin to a wild boss. Green dragon's parameters have also reached level 4, and being a dragon species, it possesses formidable strength far surpassing ordinary monsters. In other words, this green dragon is not inferior to Goliath, the floor boss of the 17th floor. However, for the Loki Familia expedition team, composed entirely of elite members, a monster of this level is not much of a challenge. But for Finn, the consideration was not merely about defeating the green dragon. There were additional factors to contemplate, such as the distribution of team experience, the consumption of potions and supplies, the time spent, and whether the gains outweigh these factors. In addition to these considerations, there was a crucial issue at hand: Ace's hatred for dragon-type monsters. Finn discreetly glanced in Ace's direction and confirmed his suspicions. The moment Ace saw the green dragon, she was consumed by hatred and rage. If it weren't for Luke intervening in time, Ace might have already rushed forward. After some thoughtful deliberation and receiving an affirmative response from Luke, Finn made up his mind. It's a bit of a waste to let go of this wealth and Excelia. Riveria, Gareth, get ready. Assemble the team to conquer this green dragon. With Finn's command, the expedition team swiftly moved into action. Dozens of adventurers arranged themselves in formation directed by Finn, steadily approaching the green dragon. At this moment, the green dragon also noticed the hostile intent from this group of adventurers. Its massive body, as it stood up, seemed to block out the sky. Roar! With a tremendous roar echoing, the battle was about to commence. Chapter 87, Stirring Winds. Roar! The green dragon spread its wings entwined with vines, roaring as if intending to ascend into the sky. Luke, stop its movements. 3 seconds are enough. No problem. Almost at the same time Finn gave the order, Luke rushed forward. Mage team, attack the green dragon with magic sufficient enough to attract its attention for a moment. As Luke charged towards the green dragon, a level 3 adventurer led the mage team consisting of 3 level 2 adventurers. Following Finn's command, they released their magic. 4 pre-chanted magic simultaneously struck the face of the green dragon. The green dragon, covered from head to toe in plants, looked like a monster composed of massive vines. Indeed, these plants and vines were an integral part of its body. Grower. The magical flames burned the vines on the green dragon's body, causing it to let out painful cries. This painful attack from their magic instantly diverted its attention. The green dragon didn't stop flying but continued to roar as if chanting something. Boom! 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 Along with the dragon's roar, numerous vines emerged from the ground, attacking the mage team. However, this sudden attack was intercepted by Finn's prepared team. 3 level 2 adventurers, equipped with flame attribute magic swords, easily cut or burned the attacking vines. At this moment, Luke, utilizing the power of prana, reached the green dragon midair. Swoosh! Poochie! Cerveresta transformed into a great sword the moment it was unsheathed. With the black flames capable of cutting and incinerating everything, Luke viciously slashed at the left wing of the green dragon. The blade, wrapped in black flames, directly cut a huge wound into the green dragon's body. Blood, accompanied by the ashes of flames, uncontrollably showered from the sky. The green dragon, heavily wounded in its left wing, couldn't maintain its flight and fell from the sky. Now's the time. Vanguard, move forward and restrict the green dragon's movements. Seeing Luke bring down the green dragon from the sky, Finn immediately seized the opportunity. 2 other level 3 adventurers, each accompanied by a level 2 adventurer, had already prepared themselves and charged towards the falling green dragon from 2 different directions. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 huge ropes shot out from their props, one wrapping around the green dragon's right wing and the other entwining its tail. After inserting the prop into the ground and turning them into stakes to imprison the dragon monster, the frontline adventurers pulled out their weapons to launch an attack on the green dragon. By this point, the battle had essentially stabilized. The green dragon, with its injured wing and trapped in place, no longer posed as high of a threat. On the side, the mage team continuously used magic to attract the green dragon's attention. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, all that was left was to wait for the battle to conclude. Therefore, Luke withdrew from the battlefield. One of the most important gains from an expedition was the accumulation of Excelia/experience points by the expedition members. Finn had already given up the previous floor boss of the 17th floor to Luke. If Luke were to single-handedly defeat the green dragon, the benefits of this expedition would be greatly reduced. Luke was well aware of this, prompting him to timely retreat from the battlefield and return to Finn's side. The battle continued with the green dragon's painful roars, struggles, and the adventurers' joyful attacks forming a stark contrast. Following Finn's instructions, the expedition members were divided into different batches, taking turns to launch attacks on the trapped green dragon. Originally, as a supporter of the team, Ace's job at this moment should have been to use potions to aid adventurers withdrawing from the battlefield. However, observing her constantly struggling against Riveria's restraint, showing an eagerness to rush towards the green dragon, it didn't seem like she was in a state to fulfill the role of an effective supporter. Finn, I intend to let Ace join the battlefield. Luke observed Ace's state and turned to Finn to convey his decision. Understanding Luke's intention immediately, Finn first reconfirmed the green dragon situation and then glanced at Ace, who was still struggling. Indeed, this is a good opportunity to temporarily address Ace's issue. Since you brought it up, I'll leave the task of protecting Ace to you. Luke nodded to Finn, then walked towards Ace. At this moment, Ace's eyes could only see the green dragon. She completely overlooked Luke's approach. Approaching Ace, Luke looked at her fierce expression, feeling a bit conflicted inside. Ace had always given him the impression of being quiet and obedient. Although he knew she harbored deep-seated hatred for monsters, she had never shown it before. Ace, would you like me to take you to defeat that green dragon? Luke crouched down, gently patting Ace's head as he spoke softly to her. Upon hearing the words, defeat the green dragon, Ace, who had been ignoring Luke and struggling continuously, finally showed a different reaction. She stopped struggling and looked at Luke, asking, really? Her eyes, burning with the flames of revenge, along with the dark aura brought by the skill, Avenger, made Ace look like the embodiment of hatred. Yes, I can take you to defeat that monster, but the condition is that you have to be obedient and listen. Luke took Ace's small hand from Riveria. Ace stared at Luke intensely. After a few seconds, she nodded slightly and replied, as long as I can defeat that monster, I'm willing to listen. Hearing Ace's response, both Luke and Riveria breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Ace was willing to listen, the next steps would be more manageable. So, holding Ace's hand, Luke approached the green dragon step by step. The green dragon apparently recognized this as the enemy who had brought it down from the sky, leading it into its current predicament. As Luke brought Ace closer to the green dragon, it almost gave up all resistance against other adventurers. Activating magic to its fullest, manipulating numerous large tree vines, the green dragon attempted to kill Luke, its archenemy. However, these dangerous vines that posed a threat to other adventurers couldn't harm Luke in the slightest. Most of the vines were burned to ashes by Severesta as they approached Luke, and the few that couldn't be cut in time were easily dodged by Luke while holding Ace. Soon, Luke arrived in front of the green dragon with Ace. Now, can we kill it? The closer Ace got to the green dragon, the more intense her hatred became, and higher the bonuses from the Avenger skill. Not yet. With your current abilities, even with the skill's enhancement, you can't kill this green dragon. You're wrong. Luke's words instantly provoked Ace. Calm down. I'll teach you the way to defeat this monster. Before Ace could go berserk, Luke once again brought back a hint of sanity. Do you remember that night when you recalled the wind that belonged to your mother? Now, remember the feeling from that moment while chanting with me. Luke's words stirred memories deep within Ace. At the same time, she followed Luke's lead and chanted, Tempest, awaken. Whoosh! As Ace uttered the incantation, the wind began to blow. Chapter 88, End of the Expedition. Surrounded by a gentle breeze, Ace felt no decrease in her hatred for monsters and dragons. Incredibly, within the dark flames, she gradually regained her composure. Ace could sense that her blood was still boiling, and the hatred in her heart still burned, but these emotions could no longer interfere with her thoughts. Emerald green winds encircled Ace, gradually replacing the dark aura. However, the empowerment from the skilled Avenger showed no sign of diminishing, and hatred still resided in Ace's heart. The difference now was that, unlike before, Ace's heart not only harbored hatred but also a warm power protecting her. Aerial. Asterisk wind attribute. Asterisk enchant type magic grants the user a certain degree of wind control. Asterisk envelopes the user in wind, enhancing their attack, defense, speed, and granting short-distance flight capability. Asterisk chant, Tempest. At the same time, Luke's voice sounded in her ears. Ace, I don't intend to stop you from seeking revenge. But I want you to understand that revenge is not everything you have. Ace lifted her head, looking at the person who had brought warm wind to her twice. Suddenly, Her mind recalled her father's words. "Sorry, Ace, I'm not your hero. But I believe that one day, you will find your own hero." At this moment, the struggling strength of the green dragon had weakened considerably. When it had attacked Luke with full force earlier, the adventurers of the expedition team had seized the opportunity to inflict numerous wounds on it, depleting a significant amount of its stamina. Now, Luke and Ace stood before it. "You only have one chance, concentrate all your strength and strive for a single lethal blow," Luke instructed Ace before accelerating towards the green dragon. As expected, the green dragon, with a high hatred value towards Luke, immediately diverted its attention upon seeing its most hated enemy recklessly charging into its attack range. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ace, using the power of the wind, leaped towards the dragon's head in midair. "Focus, concentrate, I only have this one chance, gather all my strength." Ace knew that if she failed with this strike, Luke would immediately take her out of the battlefield, and the rare opportunity to slay a dragon-type monster would slip away from her grasp. "No, that's unacceptable. I will have my revenge." The effect of the skill of Avenger continued to increase, and the storm of the magic burial was continuously compressed. Gritting her teeth, Ace squeezed the potential of her body with all her might. As the power in Ace's hands continued to rise, the high-quality short sword crafted by the Goibniu Familia began to show cracks under the pressure. But it wasn't enough. Even though the green dragon was in a near-death state, Ace still sensed the vast gap in strength between herself and it, like an insurmountable chasm. Therefore, she needed even stronger power. Perhaps Ace's innermost thoughts triggered the wind swirling around her. A sudden sensation prompted Ace to subconsciously utter another incantation. Lil Rafaga. As the next stage of the burial incantation sounded, the gentle breeze surrounding Ace instantly became ferocious. Along with the violent transformation of the wind, Ace also experienced a momentary surge in her power. At this moment, the green dragon also noticed the impending attack about to collide with its head. However, distracted by Luke, it was now impossible for it to evade Ace's attack. Ace, carrying immense power, collided directly with the green dragon's face. Boom! Roar! After the massive impact, the resounding crash echoed as the green dragon fell to the ground. Ace's full-force strike had mercilessly hit the dying green dragon. With this, the subjugation of the green dragon came to an end. Ace, carried by the wind, descended from the sky, still holding the now-defunct short sword in her hand. She stared blankly at the enormous dragon carcass dissipating into black ashes, finding it somewhat unbelievable that she had accomplished this amazing feat. "If it's hard to believe, just look around," Luke walked over, gesturing for Ace to observe the surroundings. Cheers from the adventurers, the injured vanguard of the expedition team, the seated mages on the ground, and Finn and the others approaching them, all these were visible to Ace. What entered Ace's eyes were members of Loki Familia, each with different appearances but all brimming with smiles. "It's not just you who defeated the green dragon, we all defeated it together." Luke reached out to pat Ace's head, smiling at her and saying, "How about it? Do you feel that the path of revenge isn't as difficult as you thought?" After the defeat of the green dragon, harvesting the gem tree posed no more danger. The harvest on the 24th floor was quite fruitful, containing various precious herbs and materials, along with the fruits of the gem tree. In addition to the intact green dragon magic stone and dropped items, such a huge harvest made Finn contemplate ending the expedition here. However, this thought lasted only a moment, as the main goal of this expedition was still the floor boss on the 37th floor. The next expedition didn't have much to talk about. The well-rested Loki Familia expedition team, having defeated the green dragon, didn't encounter any special events or monsters in the subsequent expeditions. Being one of the strongest Familia in Rio, expeditions were like a routine for them. The only noteworthy point was that when subduing the floor boss Eudeus on the 37th floor, it was Finn, Riveria, and Gareth who took action. Other expedition members, including Luke, did not intervene. Everyone knew that Finn and the others were preparing for their level 6 upgrade. In the end, Finn and his team emerged victorious. As first-class adventurers and longtime partners, defeating a floor boss was a matter of course for them. This was also the first time Luke witnessed the full strength of first-class adventurers. Garrett's monstrous strength that could go head-to-head with a floor boss, Riveria's formidable high-level magic, and Finn's calm command and the berserk state after using magic, all left Luke in awe. He also realized clearly the combat prowess possessed by the top-tier strong adventurers in Rio. Thus, Luke's first expedition came to a close. Afterward, they would return to the 18th floor for repairs and then go back to the surface, officially concluding the expedition. Chapter 89, New Twilight Manor. Just when Luke and the others were attacking the Green Dragon, something happened deep in the dungeon. Wind. Ah! Yes, that's the wind. Wind, wind, wind. It must be Aria's wind. Roaring, a monster located in the deeper floors of the dungeon gazed upwards, its sight seemingly penetrating through countless floors, fixating on Ace surrounded by a gentle breeze. Ah, I found you. I'm coming for you, wait for me, Aria. On that day, a certain monster located deep in the dungeon began to move upwards. Hey, look, it's the expedition team of Loki Familia. They're back. Wow, those are huge magic stones. Loki Familia is truly impressive. Luke followed the expedition team and returned to the surface. Carrying 2 gigantic magic stones, they naturally became the center of attention. Alright, Finn, I'll take some people to the guild headquarters to exchange these. So you guys can go back to the base to rest first. Exiting the Tower of Babel and walking a short distance, Gareth, following the prearranged plan, left with a few others. The large amount of resources obtained during the expedition couldn't be exchanged at the guild office on the first floor of Tower of Babel. They had to go to the guild headquarters on the Northwest Street. In theory, it was not allowed to privately trade magic stones obtained in the dungeon, regardless of their size. Processed magic stones could be made into various magic stone products like magic stone lamps. These products, including lighting fixtures, ignition devices, refrigerators, etc., had become indispensable in daily life. Simultaneously, there was a huge demand for magic stone products worldwide. Undoubtedly, Rio was the world's leading exporter of magic stone products. It enjoyed the benefits of the sole magic stone industry due to the presence of the dungeon, allowing it to develop faster than any other country on the continent. Because of this, people referred to it as the center of the world. The dungeon, which continuously spawned monsters, could produce endless magic stones, leading to enormous profits. The Adventurer Guild monopolized the trading rights for magic stones, aiming to amass vast wealth through exclusive control of magic stones. Although it was not allowed to privately trade according to the regulations, almost all Familia members ignored this rule. For small-scale and inconspicuous magic stone transactions, the guild won't care and basically turns a blind eye. However, for giant magic stones like the ones brought back by Loki Familia in this expedition, the guild would absolutely not permit private transactions. Even if someone wanted to engage in private transactions with such large-sized magic stones, there was no other organization apart from the guild that could effectively utilize them. Because not only magic stone transactions, but also the craftsmanship of magic stone products was similarly restricted by the guild. After all, the returns from a single expedition are considerable, and the amount involved is quite humongous, so it is generally handled by high-ranking or core members of the Familia. In addition to magic stones, there are also drop items from monsters or materials collected along the way. These materials can be exchanged directly for Valis in the guild, but the guild will only exchange them at market prices, known as the standard rate or the lowest price. While this method eliminates the risk of being deceived, it is safe and reliable. Most adventurers still hope to get a higher selling price. Therefore, many people take them to merchants or Familia specializing in commerce for an appraisal. The advantage of doing so is the possibility of getting a price higher than the market standard, but at the same time, there is also a risk of getting scammed. Many new adventurers will venture into such places initially, and most of them will face disappointing results. So, in the beginning, it is safer to sell it to the guild. However, this situation generally does not occur with members of Loki Familia, simply because mentioning the name Loki Familia can be quite advantageous in negotiations. P.S. This clause generally does not occur, is added to allude to cases like Luke and Ace. Because they are one of the few factions capable of retrieving precious resources from the deep floors, merchants and other familiars are afraid to offend them and be put on the blacklist of future dealings. Gareth, in charge of logistics, is responsible for handling the spoils of the expedition with his team. Finn, on the other hand, continues towards the familiar's base with Luke and Ace. However, on the way back to their base, some hushed whispers from onlookers caught Finn and Luke's attention. Loki Familia, Humph, a group of lucky fellows. That's right. Originally, when I heard about the news that King and Vanna Freya were about to level up, I thought Loki Familia would be overshadowed by Freya Familia. Yeah, but now the combat power of the two Familias has returned to balance. By the way, the next captain of Freya Familia should be King, right? Finn listened to the murmurs of passers-by, showing a slight interest. However, he just kept the matter in mind and planned to investigate later. The group continued on their way back to the Loki Familia's base, the Twilight Manor. Wow, what's going on here? Upon returning to the Familia's base, the expedition team members, including Finn and Riveria, were shocked by the sight of the building in front of them. Loki, standing at the entrance to greet them, saw everyone's surprised expressions and couldn't help but smile triumphantly. Ahahaha, how about this? This is the brand new Twilight Manor I commissioned the Goibniu Familia to renovate while you were on the expedition. Indeed, in front of Luke and the others at this moment, there stood a completely different Twilight Manor. A mansion much taller than the surrounding buildings, long, wide, and large, was situated in front of Luke and the others. Several high-rise towers overlapped to form the mansion, resembling a group of mountains made of swords, with its copper-colored exterior giving it the appearance of a vigorous and burning flame. Among the many towers, the highest central tower displayed the clown flag symbolizing the Loki Familia. This is the Loki Familia's newly renovated base, Twilight Manor. The new Twilight Manor is a collection of many towers. The lower halves of the towers are connected, and the upper halves extend to form stone-paved aerial corridors connecting to other towers. The entire architectural complex appears intricately intertwined in every direction, lacking any semblance of order. This relatively chaotic style perfectly reflects the nature of the goddess Loki. Really, although I'm happy that the base has been renovated, the expedition team has just returned, and now is the time for rest. How are the members supposed to find their rooms in such a complex structure? Finn looked somewhat helplessly at the triumphant Loki. With this new complex structure, it seemed that they would not be able to rest for a while. Let's arrange for the members to rest first. Loki, you're the only one who understands the details of the new base, so come and help. There's no slacking off. After that, I still need to report to you about the expedition. Thinking about arranging the members to rest first, followed by reporting to Loki about the expedition and coordinating with Gareth about the sales of the spoils, Finn felt like his rest time was slowly slipping away from him. Chapter 90, Celebration Banquet. What? Retirement. Mia Grand. At this time, Finn and several other senior members of Loki Familia were gathering in a brand new conference room for a discussion. They were discussing the rumors Finn happened to hear on the way back. The last sentence was asked by Gareth. Yeah, when I first heard this news, it really startled me. But I went to Freya for confirmation. And it seems like this is true. Loki, who always had a playful attitude, was not in the mood for jokes at this time, her face filled with contemplation and confusion. Freya Familia, one of the strongest familia in Ororio, whose current leader Mia Grand, officially announced her partial retirement from the frontline exploration of the underground dungeon. As a first-class adventurer in Ororio, the self-proclaimed one of the strongest, announcing retirement is not a trivial matter. What a joke. What is that violent female rogue thinking? In this sensitive period, if this causes turmoil and Evelys takes advantage of it, what should we do? Gareth had the most intense reaction to this matter. Mia Grand, like him, was a dwarf. Perhaps because of being the same race, Gareth and Mia usually quarreled the most when they met. P.S. Mama Mia is a dwarf who is 180 centimeters tall, and I can no longer understand the definition of dwarves in this world. The two almost always bickered as soon as they met, whether it was due to a competitive mentality or some other factor. Gareth has a point. Recently, the activities of Avalice have become more and more frequent. Any unexpected changes at this time are not good news for us. Finn agreed with Gareth's statement. He looked at Loki next to him and asked, Loki, did you ask Mia what she plans to do after retiring? Well. Freya told me that Demi-Emer seems to be planning to open a tavern. Ha! Upon hearing this answer, not only did Gareth let out a strange yell, but even Finn and Riveria were stunned. Loki looked at their reactions, scratching her head with some distress. Freya did tell me that. Supposedly, Mia's exact words were, no matter how messed up the times are, there should always be a place where you can laugh and eat. It's because of the increasing activities of Avalice and the deteriorating security in Ororio that Mia Grand chose to retire. Her plan is to establish a place where anyone can happily eat and drink. For this reason, one of the strongest in Ororio voluntarily gave up the path of becoming stronger for a reason that doesn't even qualify as a dream and opened a tavern. After hearing this reason, Finn and the others fell silent. After a while, Finn suddenly spoke. If I'm not mistaken, she should have opened her tavern in West Street, right? West Street is the area with the most number of ordinary residents and, in the current declining security of Ororio, the area with the weakest defense forces. If Mia really opened her tavern on West Street, then her purpose is obviously that violent woman, actually. Gareth looked at Loki, who nodded, feeling uncomfortable for some reason. Finn looked at Gareth, pondered for a moment, and said, let's go check out that tavern sometime. Although we are in a competitive relationship, Freya Familia is also considered an ally. Who is an ally with that female rogue? Gareth grumbled, but he didn't oppose Finn's suggestion. The matter was settled. Now that it's decided, let's discuss the celebration banquet for tonight. After the serious discussion, Loki immediately broke the slightly heavy atmosphere. This time, we have a grand dining hall. Finally, we can have a banquet at home. Loki's performance immediately gave Finn and the others a headache. Having a banquet at home is your main goal, right? I can already imagine countless restless nights ahead. Riveria was the only one among them who opposed building a grand dining hall. When Loki proposed this idea, she had a foreboding sense of headache. Finn and Gareth also had some regrets about approving this proposal. At that time, they only thought about the convenience of having a grand dining hall and overlooked the fact that this proposal came from their own god. But what's done is done. Finn could only helplessly ask Loki, so, how's the preparation of ingredients, the invitation of chefs, and is the grand dining hall ready as the venue for the banquet? Each of Finn's questions pierced Loki like a sword. Finn looked at the goddess in charge of their familia, who was whimsical at times, and even he couldn't help but sigh. All right, I understand. Leave the banquet arrangements to me. Since there's still some time before tonight, let's quickly start preparing. In the end, Finn could only reluctantly take on this task. Finn and Riveria took some members of Loki Familia, one responsible for procuring food, the other for hiring chefs. Gareth, being the strongest, was assigned to lead people in preparing the grand dining hall as the venue for the banquet. Time always flies in busyness, and in the blink of an eye, evening arrived. Under the joint efforts of Finn and the others, the celebration banquet was successfully held. Loki was now sitting happily in the main seat. Let's cheer for the success of this expedition. Cheers! With Loki leading the way, a large number of glasses were raised, and the banquet officially began. Luke and Ace were both attending the Loki Familia banquet for the first time. The two who had been following Finn and the others didn't quite integrate into this rowdy group. Ace was relatively better off, sitting next to Riveria, who kept serving her dishes. This situation led Finn and Gareth, who had been drinking, to jokingly say, Riveria is already a good mother, making Riveria feel very embarrassed. As for Luke, he simply chatted with Finn and the others while enjoying the food. However, this situation didn't last too long. After some time at the banquet, some slightly intoxicated Familia members gradually surrounded Luke and Ace. Since Luke and Ace usually didn't interact much with ordinary members, everyone didn't have many opportunities to talk to them. However, this didn't mean that the other Familia members weren't curious about them. After all, they were designated as core members of Loki Familia as soon as they joined, and many had witnessed Luke and Ace's extraordinary combat capabilities during the expedition. Previously, everyone was unfamiliar, so they were hesitant to strike up a conversation. Now, fueled by alcohol, they gathered around Luke and Ace with newfound courage.